Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I'm so honored to be joined by the incredible Melissa Barak. For those of you who don't know, Melissa was just named as the new artistic director for LA Ballet, but she has danced and choreographed for New York City Ballet, for Christopher Wheeldon's company Morphosis, and for her own incredible company, Barak Ballet. So thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me today.
Of course, looking forward.
So we actually go way back because we both started training at West Side Ballet back when we were young. And you were older than me, but I have this very vivid memory of you performing in a spring gala right before I think you went off to SAB. And my mom got me a signed pair of your toe shoes that I still have somewhere.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Yeah, I have wonderful memories of just how phenomenal you were there in person at such a young age, and then watching everything that you went on to do. So can you give me a little overview of how did you get into dance? How did you end up at Westside? How did you end up at SAB?
Um, I mean, really, it was just my mom seeing me as a little girl, like enamored with watching ballet. On TV, there was the Turning Point. Sorry, I see that my screen is a little dark. Let me move my computer. Um, yeah, just being enamored with watching ballet. I mean, she would take me, we would go to the Shrine Auditorium where ABT would perform every year back in the day. And I would sit at the edge of my seat watching the performance and, dancing around the house when ballet was on the television. Like Barishnikov's Nutcracker back in the day was one of my favorites to watch. And yeah, she just saw that I just had a natural just sort of love for it. And like any mother, she was like, oh, my daughter's so talented, I got to get her involved. And so yeah, I started taking classes seriously. I was taking ballet by the age of 8.
Mhm.
Starting to go to West Side Ballet a few times a week. And yeah, and my teacher Yvonne Mounsey had been an original company member with New York City Ballet when Balanchine had just started the company. So she was just this wonderful mentor to have, and sort of guided me, just sort of led me to New York City Ballet and all its glory. And
Mhm.
it was just New York City Ballet was like best company, and I loved the rep, and that was a dream goal.
Mhm.
And yeah, I eventually got into the summer intensives and invited to the year-round program, and then a contract with the company in 1998. So I was with New York City Ballet for close to 9 years.
Mhm. What do you think it was about that drew you to classical ballet as opposed to other styles of dance when you were so young?
Um, I don't know. That's a good question. I love classical music. It's just so powerful. I used to love listening to classical music in the car. I remember we had this like series of 5 cassette tapes
Mhm.
by like Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, Wagner, and maybe Vivaldi. And it was just like this little collection of music from those composers, and I just loved listening to that music. And not only like to want to dance to it, but that was also when I was sort of discovering, unbeknownst to me, I was choreographing in my head.
Mhm.
I had these ballets like you know recorded in my head to a lot of the music, so that was also sort of my first discovery in that side to me. um,
When would you say that you choreographed your first piece? I mean, I used to like put on full-on shows in my living room when I was like 5,
100%.
and I'm still doing it. So were you choreographing sort of in your living room from a young age?
Yeah, I specifically remember, it would be my sister and her friend Jackie. They were very close friends, and Jackie had a little sister, Lindsay. So it was
Mhm.
like that was my cast of characters,
Yeah.
and we would, we never quite made it to performance. Like my dream was to have like our parents like sit on the couch and watch the final, product, and we never made it to the show. But did definitely a couple hangs, was rehearsal for this show that I was going to put on.
Yeah.
um So yeah, I would definitely always kind of think like preparing for the performance.
And did you naturally gravitate toward the Balanchine style as opposed to others? And do you think a lot of that was from Yvonne, who I also adore, or was it just sort of naturally that's the way your body wanted to move?
Yeah, I mean, I think, actually, when I first started to see Balanchine ballets, I was sort of like, this is weird, like it was like, what is this? Um, and then as, I was getting a little older and started to really like more, just more appreciate it more. Um, yeah, I mean, I just fell in love, especially that Balanchine celebration for
Mhm.
the 10th anniversary, since Balanchine had died. New York City Ballet put on this fabulous, performances where they invited guest artists, or they invited principal dancers from all these other companies to come guest with the company, to perform all of his works, like kind of like his highlights. And it was called the Balanchine Celebration. And I
Mhm.
think it was between that, watching that religiously, and then also the Nutcracker movie that came out, like those two things just sold me on
Yeah.
New York City Ballet. And I was like, this is amazing. The dancers are amazing. These ballets are amazing. Like, this
Mhm.
is so special.
Yeah.
And that's what really like got me, was that footage.
So you got into the company, which already is huge. And from an outside perspective of somebody who was sort of watching from afar, it seemed like the jump from, oh, Melissa Barak got into City Ballet to Melissa Barak is taking over the choreography world felt almost instantaneous. But what was that for you? How quickly did that happen and how did it come about?
Um, like the whole choreography, like when
Yeah. Yeah.
I well, I was lucky with SAB. I was sort of involved. Now looking back, I was just sort of like this inaugural member of like all these like new choreographic programs. Like the school for the first time had put together the student choreography workshop,
Mm.
and it was like going to be by lottery. Any student that was interested, we just had to fill out a little form, if we had done anything. And I was like, oh God, I've never made anything. Like I can't,
Yeah.
I don't have a resume. And so I just explained, I would imagine I just said, I choreographed a lot of stuff in my head and I think I could do this. And so I was just one of the people, one of the 6 students that got picked, supposedly at random, but who knows? And so I did that very first student choreography workshop, and I think that caught Peter's attention. And then when I got into the ballet, into the New York City Ballet, um, New York Choreographic Institute had just taken off, and Peter had told me about it. Like, we're starting, sort of like just like a incubator sort of, new choreographies workshop sort of situation, and I'll be in touch with you about that, and kind of gave me a heads up, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd be interested in participating. So I was part of that as well, the inaugural year of the New York Choreographic Institute, which still takes place every year, and has expanded, and discovered so much amazing new choreographic talent.
Yeah.
It's an amazing opportunity for choreographers who really want to
Mhm.
explore their work and grow and all that good stuff. Um, so yeah, and then it was what I presented in that first New York Choreographic Institute that Peter was like, okay, this girl, she can do this. And so he sort of immediately had me do another new piece on the students at the School of American Ballet for the I don't, obviously it wasn't the student choreography workshop, but it was some other choreography workshop.
Mhm.
Um, and the piece that before he even saw that piece, which would have been my third piece to ever choreograph, he announced that I would be doing a new work for their June workshop,
Wow.
for
Wow.
SAB's June workshop, which is a big deal. You're performing at the Juilliard Theater, and the New York
Yeah.
Times comes and reviews it, and you've got directors from all over. Which reminds me, I need to make a trip to SAB workshop when I when it's
Yeah.
ready to go. But yeah, so it's a big deal, and he announced it right then and there in front of everybody that I'll be making
Wow.
a new piece for the workshop in June. So that was really like, I was like, whoa, this is wild.
How do you feel like you got to be so good so fast at choreographing? Because I found in lots of different arenas in the arts, there just aren't the kind of training programs for young people in certain areas as others. Like it's very easy to go train as a dancer, but like where do you train as a choreographer until you
Yeah.
hit a certain point? And like you said, that was your third piece. So clearly you were doing something remarkably right. Where how do you feel like you sort of found your voice as a choreographer so quickly?
Well, actually, I don't think I did. I think I'm musical and I think I'm really good at, I was good at sort of emulating what I was comfortable with. You know, I
Mhm,
was very exposed, obviously, to Balanchine style. And, um, I was just sort of good at sort of, I wouldn't say copying, but it was just, I was good at putting steps together in the style of dance and style of ballet that I knew. But
mhm.
I wouldn't say I found my voice, I found a voice early. I mean, I think my choreography now and my sense of movement is still growing. I still don't feel like, oh yeah, my work is fabulous. Like I'm totally insecure when I mean, I've definitely made pieces that I'm happy with. I've made pieces that I'm not happy with. Um, I would still consider myself like a work in progress when it comes to choreography. And, I could see things in my head. I feel pretty confident in my directorial, um, the directorial aspect to my choreography, but in terms of like the movement itself, I'm still, I would say finding my way and finding
Mhm.
like my voice. Yeah.
So then how did you make the transition to I know that you then choreographed for a lot of other companies, but then to go from I'm in I'm in New York City Ballet as a dancer and choreographing to I'm going to go start my own dance company. How did that happen?
Well, after I had danced with Los Angeles Ballet,
Mhm.
the first 5 seasons here. And when that was no longer, when I was no longer going to be dancing with them, I was just sort of like, what am I going to do? Like
So
where?
you left City Ballet to go to LA Ballet?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, sorry. So City Ballet, I, felt like I needed to further explore myself as a dancer. I
Mhm.
knew that being a big fish in a smaller pond, I'd probably get more opportunities and roles that I've been dreaming to do. So yeah, I came to LAB for its first 5 seasons, like when it had just started,
Mhm.
right? First
Yeah.
season. Um, and then it was after LAB that I was really figuring out like, what is my next move? Do I want to dance? Like, do I
Mhm.
want to audition for other companies? Like, I really had no idea. Um, and then I was just like, I've always kind of played with the idea of starting a company or being the director of a company. Like, and I just always had, strong opinions about how I wanted to see things done and how I felt dancers needed to be nurtured and, a certain environment that needs to be created. Um, so I was just like, I kind of really got inspired to start my own thing. And I
Yeah.
started, I was just really into it, the whole business side of it, like networking, getting in touch with people that I knew, could help me in some way. And I just started to like network, make coffee dates, like, put pen to paper, wrote a mission statement and just literally Barak Ballet like started from scratch, like
Yeah.
on a couch in my living room with like a desire to do things differently, in the
Mhm.
ballet world.
And how would you describe what you wanted to do differently?
Um, I think a big desire for me was to work with dancers in a way that was more healthy and inspiring on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Not to make dancers feel um, kind of disposable and stressed and you just I wanted to create a company where like dancers were part of the collaboration, part of the creative process, that they had agency over their own, their own selves, and that just to create an environment where there's like a mutual respect,
Mhm.
and a working relationship, instead of director barking orders and you're going to do it this way, and fitting a mold, uh, just kind of like really making it, allowing there to be more of like a dynamic culture, dynamic back and forth creative environment.
Yeah.
Um, and with Barak Ballet, we really achieved something special. I know a lot of dancers felt that it had been, to some of them, some of the best, opportunities or dance experiences that they had
Yeah.
felt, that they had.
And the work you were doing was extraordinary. Like, I can't think of another company like you and what you were doing. And there's also so many, it's getting better now, but especially when your company was coming up, so few female choreographers really in the industry, which I'm sure must have been exciting and frustrating and challenging all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, back in the day, like when I was doing a lot at New York City Ballet, and critics like Gia Corliss and other dance, writers would be like, how do you feel about being a woman? And it never
Mhm.
had really even occurred to me. It was like, oh yeah, I guess I'm a woman. But like to me, it was like, well, of course, why wouldn't I? If I'm talented, why wouldn't I get to, you know, choreograph?
Right.
And I guess now in hindsight, it was, I do think Peter genuinely Peter was good at spotting talent, out of
Mhm.
choreographers and dancers. He really had a good eye. And to me, it was just like, well, if I've displayed some sort of talent and knack for this, like, why shouldn't I have
Yeah.
that opportunity? So it was like, woman or not woman, like,
Yeah.
you know, somebody who wants to nurture new talent saw me as capable, and, was
Yeah.
pushing for me to, you know, explore that side of myself.
I had a similar experience in that growing up, there were always women around me, artistic directors, directors doing all that. And it was only when I started to have success in New York and was suddenly like, I'm the only woman in the room. And this is an interesting dynamic that started to show up. Um, which is one reason I'm so very grateful that we have you. And now you're the artistic director of LA Ballet, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first time that there's a singular artistic director of the company. And I think you might be the first female artistic director of the company, is that right?
Well, the previous directors, it was
Mhm.
a couple,
Yeah.
wife and husband. So, um, I guess the first single
Mhm.
director who is a female, but
Yeah.
there was a, female and male director prior to me.
How did the artistic directorship come to you?
It was just sort of, with Baroque Ballet, I had been out there doing my thing, kind of my calling card was, I was putting on the stage of, throughout LA.
Mhm.
Um, so I think just word got around, just generally that, Melissa Barak Ballet is doing interesting work. There's a lot of new stuff, a lot of new choreography and collaborations. Dancers, word around town was dancers enjoyed, really enjoyed working with me. And those sorts of, that reputation just sort of reached the board. Um, and it was during COVID that I think, like every company, everybody was reassessing. It was a time to just sort of reflect and reassess, like,
Yeah.
where are we? Like, this is a time for change, if change needs to happen. And, I know that the company ran, pretty much like a research effort, just to kind of see where LAB was at and what people's perception of LAB was. And, conducting interviews and data, um, data runs, and, where they are financially, how the company's grown or how it hasn't grown. Um, and then I think they just discovered that it was, there was a new direction that they wanted to go in. And, I seemed like this perfect fit, having
Mhm.
been a dancer there prior. Um, being from LA originally, single-handedly practically, like, building my own ballet company and successfully, you know, launching numerous programs and commissions. And so I just sort of like, proved my merit as, both a choreographer and the director of a small ballet company, but still to do it by yourself with no staff is
Yeah.
a small feat. So I think, yeah. And then just the fact that dancers really, you know, really enjoyed my leadership. It just seemed kind of like a perfect fit,
Yeah.
this person to take us, into the next chapter.
What have your goals been stepping into the role, and what have you been able to do or tweak or change, and what do you still have on the horizon?
I mean, well, I'd love to see this company grow and into a world class, nationally recognized ballet company. Goals are to, I think what it's really going to be important to carve out our own artistic brand and not copy what other companies, have been known for. I really want us to be known for what we do, our own unique repertoire and style. Residencies in venues where we're performing consistently every year in LA, uh, partnerships with venues around town are going to be hugely important, in order for us to to grow our work weeks and grow our repertoire, um, program things years ahead in advance,
Mhm.
whether it's to prepare and fundraise for new story ballets and new
Mhm.
new works. And so yeah, just kind of really being able to get a real foothold in this city with key venues and getting people excited about Los Angeles ballet and
Yeah.
it being a new era, and that other companies, look to us like, oh, what's
Mhm.
Los Angeles ballet doing? Like what's in their pipeline? What's coming up over there that we would be pioneers in some sort of way. Um, and yeah, I have a lot of ideas and a lot of big plans, and we have to grow our annual budget, grow in staff and dancers, work weeks. Like there's a lot of growth to be had, but that's the exciting part as well, is like it's got such potential. Los
Mhm.
Angeles Ballet is in a really good place in terms of potential. But there's a lot to mold and,
Mhm.
really cultivate and see, a lot of directions we can go. So
Why do you think Los Angeles, because I mean, Los Angeles Ballet has been around for a long time and it's done lovely work, but it's never Los Angeles has never been known for a ballet company in the way that, I mean, certainly New York City, but also a lot of other states in the country have been. And you would think that LA would be one of the first places to have a main ballet company. Why do you think it's never been something that has taken off in LA in the way that it has in other places in the country?
I mean, I think it's just a caliber of dancing that hasn't really been achieved. You can't just be nice. It can't just be like, oh, that was nice. That was good. Like it has to be like, wow, that stood out. You have to stand out. The choreography needs to stand out. The repertoire needs to stand out. The dancers need to stand out. The design, the costume design, the lighting design, the set design, it needs to stand out. If it's just nice, it's not
Mhm.
enough. Um, and, it's hard. There's so many components and it's very expensive. I do think that there are ways in achieving that on a small budget. I think I was pretty good at doing that for Barak Ballet.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's got to be special. You can't be copying what's worked for other companies. You can't be copying a repertoire that made another company put on the map, or put another company on the map. You have to carve out your own destiny. And I think that's just not, I don't think that's was achieved before.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
what was achieved was, setting beautiful ballets in a very, clean, nice fashion. But that's just not gonna, you know, that's not gonna cut it.
Sure. Um, I know you've obviously been doing a lot of interviews, especially since you're becoming artistic director. What's something that no one has ever asked you in an interview about either yourself and your career or LA Ballet now that you've always wanted to talk about or answer in an interview?
Um, no one's ever asked me yet.
Hmm.
Not sure. I don't know. I mean, I will say, this first season has been a transition year.
Hmm.
So, the programming was set by the previous directors, and that this year has just really been an opportunity to just sort of assess the company, like, now that I'm in it, and really assess, like, what's working. There's a lot that works, and what's not working, what's keeping us from, what we need to change in order to really move forward. So yeah, I think I just want to let people know, like, I think people get anxious, like, oh, what's happening, what's gonna, nothing's happening, I don't see any difference. It's like, this year is really, it's a transition year. It's like I'm laying
Hmm.
low, gathering my thoughts, and we're kind of behind the scenes. We're getting, we're working like little worker bees.
Yeah.
And and for next year, in preparation for my first official season, 23-24,
Hmm.
is when, the company will look and feel different.
Yeah. Are you going to be dancing with the company at all? And is Barak Ballet going to sort of meld into it, or are you still keeping the two separate companies going?
Well, Barak Ballet still exists. It's dormant for now.
Mhm.
Many of my board members, my wonderful, sweet, committed board members, many of them have joined Los
Mhm.
Angeles Ballet, which means so much to me. They've been incredible, incredibly supportive. Um, you know, an incredibly supportive group, that I was really lucky to have stick with me for so long, and then now into this new chapter. Yeah, so many of them have come along, and some of the repertoire that we did in Baroque Ballet, I definitely want to bring in to Los Angeles Ballet. So there's definitely pieces that I have costumes for, and
Yeah.
we've got, yeah. So I'll definitely want to bring some of those works into the company repertoire,
Mhm.
and
Are
yeah,
you
and
gonna
then
be
just the
dancing though?
overall culture. Will I be dancing?
Yeah.
Oh, no, no, no.
No?
I
And
love the
last
thought of getting back on stage, but there's a lot that has to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think I certainly don't have the time or the energy. I'm just
Mhm.
like,
Oh,
I
I'm sure.
I'm just like meeting after meeting after meeting. I mean, I don't even have time to work with the dancers,
Mhm.
as often as I would like to, because I'm just, doing so much of the behind the scenes now.
And last question as we wrap up, what advice would you give to artists that are interested in either becoming choreographers or starting their own theater company or becoming an artistic director? Because those are things that I think certainly with choreographing, there's been more movement in providing opportunities and training for younger folks. But in general, those are things that most people you kind of just have to learn on the fly and learn by doing it. So what advice would you have for anybody that wants to pursue that?
Choreography.
Choreography or starting their own company and becoming an artistic director.
Well, I mean, being an artistic director, you have to have like that, your own business sense. I think
Mhm.
it really is like, I didn't go to business school. I didn't go to nonprofit, arts management, nothing like that. I think what's important is relationships,
Mhm.
and knowing how to read people. You need to read a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, and the relationships that you create and foster. Um, so yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you need to have that desire, like and a vision. You need to have a vision. Like, what does this company look like? What does it feel like? why do you want to do this? So, I mean, like, all I could say is what I did with zero experience. It started with relationships and a vision. Like that's how it started, and relationships that I had with some dancers that I really respected and knew that I, had some choreography that I wanted them to perform. I mean, that was literally how it started, was just gathering a few people that I thought might be able to be supportive of a new company, getting in a studio, bringing them all into a studio to watch two dancers perform a piece that I knew that they would look good, was right for them. Brought in that choreographer, and had them perform this small female duet
Mm.
for, small group of people. And one of the people in the audience, the little studio audience, was like, I really loved that. I'm gonna, donate 10,000
Wow.
towards your first showcase.
Mhm.
And that's how it all started, was just, grabbing a couple dancers, doing a piece that I knew that they would look good in, grabbing some people, getting them into a studio, sitting them down and watching something that I only hoped somebody would, you know, somebody would like.
Yeah.
Um, so, you got to be resourceful, and you got to make the most out of the relationships and the situation that you have. But,
Mhm.
it takes tenacity and
Yeah.
discipline and a hustle.
Mhm. And my mom made me promise to ask you, who my mom who's a dancer, if John Clifford is still involved in LA Ballet.
Well, John had his own Los Angeles ballet.
Oh, separate one.
It
Okay.
was a separate one. Yeah, this is not the same Los Angeles
Got it.
ballet. He
Got it.
had run Los Angeles ballet, I think, like, in the, like, late 70s, 80s, and then it had stopped. And then he restarted his Los Angeles ballet, and that, just sort of fell apart. Something, I
Mhm.
think, like, funds that were pledged didn't quite
Mhm.
materialize, and so that second attempt at getting it going again had, ceased. And then
Mhm.
it wasn't until the previous directors of this Los Angeles ballet launched the company in 2006, and
Oh,
it's been
got it,
going
got
ever
it.
since. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the 17th season, which is really impressive. I mean, it's a good group. There's a lot of talent on the staff,
Mhm.
and and the board, and they've 17th season for a Los Angeles ballet. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a pretty good track record. That's why it's so exciting to be able to, you know, really get this thing, like, up and going.
Yeah. So how can people follow you, support you, follow LA Ballet, get tickets to things? What's the best way for everybody to keep tabs?
I mean, Instagram, website, just losangelesballet.org is our website. And, just to look, check back frequently, for events and ticket sales and our season and dates.
Mhm.
I'm terrible with social media. I personally hate it, and I think it's ruining the world. So I'm not that active on social media, but people are more than welcome to follow me at Melissa Barak. I don't really use Facebook too much. It's really, if I do anything on, social, it's Instagram. And then Los Angeles Ballet has, their own Instagram,
Mhm.
um, which is at Los Angeles Ballet. And if people want to, check out the work that I did for Barak Ballet to kind of get a sense of
As
my,
they should, because it's phenomenal.
yeah, get a
Yeah.
sense of what I did prior to stepping in as, director of LAB, is at Barak Ballet, Barak Ballet.
Mhm.
And yeah, see kind of like the scope of work that we did and the collaborations and commissions. And, I'm very proud of what we all accomplished, with
Yeah.
Barak Ballet.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. And it's lovely to chat with you. And please keep me and all of us posted on all
Yeah.
the wonderful things you have going on.